Hello, Covenant family. Pastor John here to introduce Psalm 125. Let's read the psalm together. Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved, but abides forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people, from this time forth and forevermore. For the scepter of wickedness shall not rest on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous stretch out their hands to do wrong. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good, and to those who are upright in their hearts. But those who turn aside to their crooked ways, the Lord will lead away with evildoers. Peace be upon Israel. You know, when I read this psalm, I think this one in particular, I think of the pilgrims who would have traveled to Jerusalem on those 3 festivals of the year to worship and to go up, to ascend up to Jerusalem and ultimately to the Temple Mount, to Mount Zion. And I can imagine them singing this song of ascent as they entered into Jerusalem, looking up. And so I think it's fitting that the psalmist directs our attention, their attention, and our attention to Mount Zion. And scripturally speaking, Mount Zion is rich with theological meaning. But that's not the psalmist's direction in this psalm. Really, as I like to say, he's directing us geologically rather than theologically to look to this Mount Zion. And, well, that's what we are like, the stability of this mountain, the solid foundation of this mountain. That's what we're like when we trust in the Lord. He says, look around. Look at the mountains surrounding Jerusalem. Well, the Lord surrounds his people. And so you could say that we are stable and secure in the Lord, those who trust in the Lord. Of course, that's not the case with all of the world. And that was not the case with Israel as well. Israel's story is one of decline after Solomon's reign. And we see over and over and over again wicked kings who would rise up to power in Israel, and even wicked kings outside of Israel, and their influence and even their reigning over Israel, conquering Israel. We think about the Babylonian captivity, and then of course much later we think about the destruction of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount in AD 70. Well, whatever the case is, we know that it is a fact that wicked people rise to power. And we know that that can be very discouraging to those of us as we look around and think, where is the Lord in this? But the psalmist is teaching us that we are stable. We are secure in the Lord. And so we need to have an eternal perspective. We need to remember that the wicked will not always reign, or as the psalmist puts it here, for the scepter of wickedness shall not rest, meaning it shall not continue, it shall not abide on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous stretch out their hands to do wrong. The Lord desires our obedience. The Lord desires to keep us from sin, as we pray in the Lord's Prayer, to keep us from evil. And so the Lord indeed will not let wickedness reign forever. Well, how long is that? Well, it may be beyond our lifetime. We don't know. All in God's good time, right? But what we do know is that evil is temporary. God is not. And so the psalm is teaching us to sing this song, and even ending this psalm with a prayer to the Lord. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good, to those who are upright in their hearts. We are to pray that the Lord bless us as we are faithful to Him, that the Lord bless His people who seek to obey Him and to do His will. But to those who turn aside to their crooked ways, the Lord will lead away with evil doers. we do pray for God's justice, and we do know that there will in fact be a judgment day. We know that while evil may seemingly prevail within the days in which we live, we know that that is not eternal. We know that there will be a judgment day, that there is indeed divine justice. And so the psalmist concludes with that beautiful Hebrew word shalom. Peace be upon Israel. May God bless His people. May God bless His church. May God sustain us in His perpetual divine shalom, a peace that passes all understanding. Well, that's just a taste of Psalm 125, which we'll look at in much greater depth this coming Lord's Day. I pray that you will join us, that you will worship with us, and until then, may God continue to bless you in your study of His Word.